Now, let me comment on one or two things about the introduction before continuing. So first, Father Andre, you're mentioning, asked the management group, everybody to read Heroic Leadership, and I hope that you please bought a separate copy for each person, not just giving one copy. Okay. And thank you for the kind introduction, and you are reminding us that today is the feast of St. Andrew Baboya, who's famous in this country, and in fact it's a cause for celebration, but also makes me worried, because if I remember correctly, I think maybe he was skinned alive, made a martyr, cut off his skin. And if you are unhappy with my presentation today, maybe also I received this punishment.
This tradition died.
Yeah. And final introduction point. So Dominic is mentioning one thing that, in fact, every American child knows very well. You do not need to mention it, because there is a famous year in the history of innovation, and this is 1886, and every American child knows from school about two famous things that were happening in 1886. So one is the beginning of Coca-Cola, and even more important, the beginning of your enterprise here. Yeah? Okay. Okay, so let's think a little bit about leadership together, and I will talk maybe for 30 minutes, more or less, and then we have some time for conversation and questions. And let's begin with a little quiz. There was a survey company in the United States, and it was asking Americans if they have a great deal of confidence in the leaders in certain sectors of society. Okay? And let's duplicate this survey just now. So, if you have a great deal of confidence in your political leaders, please raise your hand. There's a problem in the microphone. Okay, if you have a great deal of confidence in your business sector leaders, please raise your hand. 1%. You have a great deal of confidence in your education leaders, please raise your hand. 5%. You have a great deal of confidence in your religious leaders, please raise your hand. 20%. Now we can ask Father Andre to leave, and we take another more honest vote, okay? Okay, so you are so pessimistic here in Poland. I am from the USA. We are the country where everyone is an optimist. So now let me show you the correct answer for this survey. And I just let you read, no comments from me. Okay, now look, this is 2007, when the world is still okay, huh? So we can imagine if this survey is done today, all of these numbers must be lower, huh? We do not feel very good about the quality of leadership we have, and I wonder what would be better. So let's now spend a few seconds quietly thinking, each person, and I invite you to think of the names of 1 or 2 living people that you would consider to be leaders. And then take a few more seconds, and why do you think of this name? So what qualities or what attributes do you associate with being a good leader? I let you think. And now for 30 seconds, what if you chat with 1 person, 2 people nearby, and share the names and ideas that you come up with for leaders and qualities of leaders?
As you wish and as you need. We have something like 45 minutes for you, or 1 hour, as much as you need.
So, and then after we have some questions? Or?
We have prepared 5 questions. I will pose 5 questions on behalf of the hall.
Okay, and you do not want to invite spontaneous?
Rather not.
Okay. Okay, friends, let's come together. And before I talk, let's hear a couple of ideas. How about 1 or 2 names? Tell me 1 or 2 names that come up so far. Father Andre. Okay. How much money is he paying you for this answer? Okay, Father Andre. Okay, who else? Let's have another name. No? How about some qualities? What were some of the qualities or attributes that we associate with good leadership? To take ownership of something. This is my job, I will take ownership, I will do it. Something like that. Beautiful. Okay, wisdom. So, I have some idea, I've learned through my experience, and therefore I do. And someone said? Experience. I've had in my life some experience and I've learned things. Great. Thinking outside the box, so maybe being somehow creative or imaginative. And we take 1 more. You're gonna? Motivation and inspiration, I guess, first for yourself, and then you can also motivate other people. Okay, beautiful. So, now let me talk for 20, 30 minutes with no slides. But first, let's take a check. For the people who are listening in English, my speed, it's okay, too slow, too fast, it's okay. All right, and for my colleague Peter and people who are listening in Polish, the speed's okay, or? Okay, seems okay. All right, so who are our leaders? People thought of interesting names. Who thought about their own name? I guess nobody, almost nobody. Or if you think of your own name, probably you do not turn to the person next to you and say, me. Okay? We live in a culture that teaches us to be modest, humble people. And when we think of leaders, we generally think about someone who is famous. President, general, pope, chief executive. And so it is immodest to think about ourselves and Pope Francis, for example, as leaders. Now, your modesty is extremely important, but your stereotype about leadership is broken. And I want to suggest that the first people you need to think about as leaders are yourselves. And I will explain why in 1 minute. And what do good leaders do to motivate the people on the team? You say motivation. People gave me very nice ideas. I wonder who thought about this idea. You must love those you lead before you can be an effective leader. I'm just quoting General Eric Shinseki, the highest ranking military officer in the United States. And at first, this idea seems strange to me, coming from a military that we all associate with macho, being tough. Or maybe not so strange, because the more I think, the more I suspect that a soldier will perform better if he believes or she believes that he is valued in a very deep way by the general who has a terrible job of sending him maybe to face death. So, who is a leader? We're all leading, well or poorly. And our claim to leadership is not our status. I'm the president of this, I am chief executive of this. Our claim to leadership is what we do with whatever is our status. I am chief executive, I am the most junior person, I am a parent, I am a student, I am a teacher. Now, this is not the way we think, but this is not an American gimmick that I am saying to sell a book. And I will demonstrate it for you in two ways, the idea that each person, in fact, is a leader. So here is the first way that I demonstrate for you. Let's remember the ideas that you told me, your ideas, about what are the qualities of leaders. And I was listening, and every single idea that you told me is an idea that everyone here can do every day of your life. So you said to me to motivate and inspire yourself and other people, right? You do not need to be president to do that. And someone told me to have some experience in life. We all have this. Somebody told me wisdom. You've learned things from your experience. We all can do this. And I forget one or two other ideas that everyone can use. And I demonstrate this for you in another way, just right from the dictionary. One of the dictionary definitions of leadership is this: to point out a way, direction, or goal, and to influence others toward it. And isn't it true that everybody here is doing these words all the time? In other words, we are pointing out a way, we are role modeling a way by our behaviors, our attitudes. We have many young adults here. They have been in studies or are in studies. And we can imagine one person is working always extremely hard. And also being available to help colleagues. So this person is role modeling a way of life. Namely, I believe we should develop our human talents. And I believe we should help others. And I am having influence on the people around me by my example. And all of us have parents, and some people here are parents. And could there be any more obvious example of pointing a way and influencing others than what parents do for children in a life? So by the dictionary definition, good parenting, it's good leadership. And even though all of us are leading, most of us, we do so only subconsciously. In other words, we are not walking around every day thinking, oh, I'm a leader. And I want to suggest that we need to at least sometimes think about, okay, I have this opportunity and responsibility. Not if I become mayor of Krakow, president of Poland, but just now. And what will I do with my leadership opportunity now? And I want to propose 4 ideas, 4 values for you. Not the only ones, not the best ones, not the only formula. 4 ideas to consider. That people who are leading well tend to be heroic and self-aware and ingenious and loving. And now I define each one, and maybe I will talk about 2, maybe 3. So first, heroism. People who are leading well are motivating themselves and other people with a real desire for excellence. And also with goals that are bigger than any one person's ego. And second, people who are leading well are self-aware. What are your strengths and weaknesses? What is your values? What is the purpose of your life? And third, people who are leading well, they are ingenious. In other words, they understand the world will keep changing. And only people who themselves are able to adapt to a changing world can lead well. And finally, love. That you treat other people in a way that respects their human dignity and tries to develop their potential. So let's talk a little bit about 2 or 3 of these ideas. Let me begin with heroism. And let me tell you a story from the United States to help us imagine the idea of heroism. Because I guess when I say heroic, most people are thinking about someone is in a building that is burning and I will save their life. And of course this is heroic. But most of us, we cannot control the opportunities life gives us. I do not know, will I ever get the chance to save somebody who is in distress? Instead, for most of us, the opportunities that life gives us are small. Let's think about the staff of Father Andre's organization of Shema. People are doing counseling. People are working with young adults. We will not see them on television as famous people. And their heroism is coming to work every day and working with patience and excellence and dedication. And doing this in a lifetime is what is heroic about their life. And another quality of people who are heroic is that they understand they are working for a purpose bigger than themselves. There was a story in U.S. history. We remember in the early 1960s, you have seen in history, when Russia and the United States are racing to have a rocket come to the moon first, right? And there is a story that President Kennedy, at some moment, visits the space agency to boost the morale of the staff. And at some moment, he meets a janitor who is cleaning an office. And to be polite, he has a conversation. So, what is your job here? And the man says to him, Mr. President, I am putting a man on the moon. Okay, I'm from New York City, we don't think this way. But even I know, and everybody here knows, that the teams that work best, whether it's the Jesuits, my old JP Morgan, the city government of Krakow, the teams that perform best are teams where people, I teach you some American slang, teams where people get over themselves. I want to listen, see how he says, get over yourself in Polish. In other words, they understand this is not all about you. If I'm in the bank, it's not all about being the accountant. It's not all about being the loan officer, not all about being the president. Rather, companies succeed when each individual is willing to invest some of her ego, her energy, her time, her talent into some mission that is worthy of her allegiance and bigger than her. And teams where everybody is only worried about themselves are teams that fail. And by the way, we were invited here this evening in an organization that itself has a deeply spiritual Christian root, right? And of course, this idea I just explained, that people who are leading well, who care about something bigger than self, this is certainly a business idea, but it's also a deeply spiritual idea, huh? That we understand I am not here for myself. Ultimately, this is not my purpose in life. One quality of people who are heroic is that they are willing to work for some bigger purpose. But getting to work this way involves acquiring self-awareness. So now I want to talk for a few minutes about making yourself self-aware. And let me tell you that in anybody who has managed a lot of people or who has managed the human resources department, I did both of these things in my years in JP Morgan, has been surprised by the phenomenon of rising junior stars, rising young talent, that all of a sudden they bomb out and fail. So when I was in Morgan, we hired many of the smartest kids in America because they're coming to Wall Street and they want to become rich for themselves. And all of them are doing well when the only thing we are asking them to do is move numbers around Excel spreadsheets. But always, some of them are failing as soon as we start to ask them to do grown-up things. Like dealing with other human beings. Or dealing with problems that do not have easy solutions. And one of the things we all quickly realize in adult life is that many business problems do not have easy solutions. And in fact, some problems have no solutions. And so you need people, when they are leading, who have a judgment and courage. So judgment, for example, well, here is our problem. We seem to have 3 possible paths of action. I cannot prove mathematically that this one is surely correct, but I have my reasons. I think this is the best. And then they have courage. Because even though they do not know exactly for sure they are correct, and they will look quite foolish in front of 50 subordinates if they are wrong, anyway, they have the courage to be willing to lead. We go this way. And you may know that there is one school of research that attributes this lack of judgment and courage to a lack of a certain kind of self-awareness. In other words, what sometimes happens is that very smart people, now I teach some more American slang, very smart people quickly figure out how to do school. They never figure out how to do life. It means this: precisely because they're smart, the tasks of school are coming very easily to them. And they are popular with the teachers, they're popular with the other students, life is very nice, and they are never experiencing some real challenge, some real failure, some real setback. The kinds of things that help them develop what we in the corporate world called learning agility. To be agile, you know this word. In other words, to be able to learn new things. To fail and keep on going. To accept feedback from other people. There was an American psychologist who taught at Harvard Business School for a long time. And he also worked on a one-on-one basis as a kind of corporate coach to many chief executives. And he made the observation that many of these successful executives, in his words, were twice born. This is a very interesting phrase. He does not mean it in the religious sense that we guess. Instead, he means this. He noticed how many of them, early in their adult lives, had suffered some kind of crisis. You're an alcoholic, you get fired from your job, your family has some difficulty, or your marriage breaks up. And this experience completely knocks them down and makes them say, okay, who am I? And what do I want in my life? And his thesis was that, in fact, it was precisely this moment that explained their ultimate success. Because it gave them a very solid core, a very strong sense of, I know who I am, I know what I care about, I know why I'm here. And anybody who has tried to do something very ambitious and difficult in life, there are people here who have started businesses, always very difficult, know that when you try to do something very ambitious, inevitably you face discouragement, you face failure, you have trouble, and unless you have a very strong core, something that keeps you going, you just give up. I hope you can guess what I am trying to suggest about the importance of creating what we might call a foundation of self-awareness. But if it's not completely clear, let me unpack this idea for 1 or 2 more minutes. And first I will say this, that if life does not force us through a moment of crisis to scrutinize ourselves and understand ourselves, we need to create for ourselves some process to answer these questions about our own life. And of course, every religious tradition helps people to do this. This is one way. We go to church and we consider some questions and ideas about the purpose of existence. Or we have many other processes or ways to coming to understand ourselves better. We have counseling, for example. We are reading literature. There are many ways we achieve this. But I want to develop another aspect of it, that I guess, and I hope that most of us in this room have not suffered a personal crisis. We do not wish this on anyone. But I guess if I went around this room and we started to hear the secret resumes of everyone in this room, secret resume, the things you do not even tell your own friend, we would discover that many people in this room have had some real challenge and difficulty in their life. There are people here who have had very difficult family situations. There are people here who have had some substance abuse problem in their own life or a family member's life. There are people here who have found it very difficult to do well in school or to fit in. And at least in the popular culture in the United States, I don't know Poland, in the United States is in a popular way somehow teaching us that we should be ashamed of these aspects of our life. And this is our great tragedy, and we should hide it and never think about it. And what I am saying to us, especially to the young adult people here, is that, what the research often is teaching us is that for some people, this challenge or difficulty somehow becomes the source of their great strength and power and rebirth in life. And so maybe instead of just being ashamed, we should think, okay, I am still here. And I have survived this challenge. And what did I learn about myself and about the strength I have? And how can I continue to draw on this strength to keep growing in my life? So we all must make some deep investment in knowing ourselves. And then we also need to have some kind of mechanism to keep ourselves updated every day on how things are going. And when I was in the seminary, we learned a very simple self-awareness practice that anyone in this room can begin using tomorrow in even 15 minutes a day. So the founder of the Jesuits teaches us that each day we must take 1 or 2 short mental breaks. So now I can imagine a few minutes after my lunch, and a few minutes at the end of the day. And I will do just 3 things. One, I will remind myself, why am I grateful as a human person? And second, I will try to lift my horizon a little bit. So when I say lift my horizon, I mean this. That all day I'm thinking about, I must answer this email, I just have this for lunch, there's too much traffic right now, and for a moment I am not thinking about these small things, but lifting my horizon and reminding myself, actually, why am I here on earth? Or what is some personal weakness or issue that I know I must improve this year in my life? And then third step, in these few minutes, mentally I will go back over the last few hours and try to remember the people I met, the situations I was in, and can I take some small lesson that will help me in the next few hours. So for example, all morning I was irritated. And why? I must think about this and finish it and move on with my life. Or if you are a religious person, we might do it this way. I will go back over the last few hours and try to see how was God present to me or trying to be present to me in the people I met, the things I did, and so on. And I think the genius of this very simple practice becomes very obvious when we think about the lives we are all trying to lead. We are floating on a river of email, text, phone call, meeting, distraction. I'm coming to the end of the workday. I did not even do my #1 priority. So we are leading these completely chaotic lives, and we need to have some practices to keep ourselves in balance and on track. Now, I think I will just talk about love for a few minutes, and then we will finish and have some conversation. So first, the idea of love, and this is the idea that in a big company, people often are very skeptical. What place can love have? And I am not going in the hallways of JP Morgan and hugging people and telling them I love them. And I do not suggest that you begin to do this in your own companies. But the founder of the Jesuits said that love should show itself in deeds, not in words. So what kind of deeds could show the impact of love in a workplace? Okay, well, surely no chief executive who loved his or her employees would ruin their whole careers in order to try to make himself rich through a fraud. And no politician or civil servant who loved the people would deprive them of the services they deserve through corruption. So if we are entrusted with other human beings, our customers, our employees, our citizens, what do we owe these people? Simply because they are human beings. And look, everybody here knows that children learn better and perform better when they feel safe. And when people make them know that they are valuable. And when they are raised in environments that have discipline. And how did we convince ourselves that our adult needs, in fact, are different? They're not. The best teams I was on in JP Morgan were teams where we trusted each other. We were more interested in helping each other win than watch each other fail. And we held each other very accountable to high standards, so that each person and the whole team is better performing. Now look, I do not talk about love because I am a soft person and I just want us all to be nice. I worked in one of the toughest industries on earth. And when I talk about love, maybe I do so for some Christian reasons, but I also do so for business reasons. And let me explain. I don't know Poland. In the United States, when people in large companies are surveyed, only about 1/2 of people say that they are happy in their work. And only about 40% of people say that they trust their own senior manager. And about 1/2 of people say that they worry frequently about losing their job. So look, any idiot can tell us that if this is the human environment in which you are asking people to work, mistrustful, afraid, fearful, unhappy, of course they cannot possibly be doing their best work. So we need to create human environments that will help people to do their very best performance. Now, just let me share one last idea, which is the idea of courage, and then we can have some conversation back and forth. And I want you to just read a quote, and then I will explain it to you. And Peter, can you see it? Okay. Okay, so you know, you are too young, but I remember when this guy came out of jail. And I remember those first few months. And let me tell you, that was an incredible performance. And I remember looking at that guy and thinking, what natural charisma, and what natural courage, and what natural self-confidence. And then many years later, I was reading some interview with him or some article, and I see this quote. And I feel like he is smacking me in the head. As if he is saying, okay, Chris, so your idea is that everything in South Africa must have been very easy for me because I have so much natural self-confidence and courage. So no, I was afraid. So now, Chris, now why don't you tell me, please, what is your big excuse in life? And let me tell you something. This is the way it is. I've been lucky enough to work with many very successful people in many industries on 3 continents. And I can tell you that almost without exception, everybody's afraid and nobody has enough self-confidence. And for me, courage does not mean that magically you will wake up some morning and no more fear and all the courage you need and confidence. Instead, courage for me means that you understand that of course you have weaknesses and of course you have confidence issues, but you're also smart and you are talented and you have wisdom. There are things you have learned in your life, and there is a unique role, a unique contribution that you can make in the world in your own particular circumstance. And to have the conviction to go ahead and make this contribution, despite any fears, despite lack of confidence. Okay, so remember when I began, we all played this mental game and we thought of the name of one or two leaders. So now I'm finished. But I remind you of this game. And I hope that everybody, please, will think of your own name first. When I say that we need smart, dedicated people who are willing to step up and show some leadership in a society that really very badly needs better models of leadership and better leadership. So let me wish everybody the best of luck as you make yourselves and your families and your organizations more self-aware and more heroic and more loving. And let me also say that I know it's very hard to listen at the end of the day and to listen in 2 languages, and the pace is never perfect for anybody, so I thank you very much for being patient in that. And thank you very much for listening.